Welcome in, everyone, and thank you for listening to the 151st ever episode of the Missouri Sports Podcast, brought to you by 106 Apparel and recording from the Revel Advertising Studio in beautiful Springfield, Missouri. I'm one of your hosts, Cameron Albert, alongside my good friend and fellow Mizzou fan, Kyle DeVries. How are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing great, Cameron. Us boys, we were checking out a new attraction here in Springfield a few nights ago. We were checking out a rip-off version of Top Shots. What's it called? Like Big Shots or something?
Big Shots?
Yeah.
Top Shots. Top Golf.
Top Golf. Oh, so it actually is. I thought it was Top Shots.
Me too.
That's the NBA NFT thing. Is Top Shots.
The digital trading card thing.
Well, I found out that I'm really bad at golf.
I'm pretty bad too.
It's
Producer
frustrating.
Cameron better than both of us combined, probably.
Still not very good.
I mean, we're just literally. It's just basically a glorified driving range, and
Yeah.
it's still frustrating. So.
Yeah, I had fun with it, but do I want to go back anytime soon? Probably not. I
It's a
feel
little
like
pricey.
Yeah, and I would need like an actual coach to like give me lessons to actually start feeling like I was having fun.
I thought you were doing pretty good.
My wife videoed me swinging the club and showed it to me, and I was like, never do that again. Never show me that again. That was really ugly. I don't ever want to see that.
Yeah, I think I'll just stick to like mini golf.
I agree with you there. Kyle, I spent yesterday floating the Current River in Missouri.
How was that?
Fantastic. One of my most favorite things I could possibly ever do. It was a wonderful time. Got a little sun, not quite a sunburn, but maybe. So,
A little vitamin D.
yeah, it was a great time.
Good.
Very relaxing. SEC Media Day is going on right now. Mizzou just wrapped up a lot of their interviews and stuff. Coach Drinkwitz making the rounds, talking to all the media members. And we will talk a lot about that, as well as some rumors about Texas and Oklahoma potentially wanting to join the SEC. Before we do that, though, we do want to give a big shout out to our newest Patreon supporters, Tristan and Cooper. Both signed up at the $10 and above level, so they'll get entry into the Fantasy Football League that we told you about last week. So if you're interested in that, $10 on Patreon gets you your entry fee. There will be a prize for the winner. Do have to sign up for that by the end of August so that we can draft at the beginning of September. That'll be a lot of fun. Tristan has been over in the Discord. We've been chatting. That's another perk that you get. So shout out to those guys for their support. And if you are interested in any of that, you can check it all out at patreon.com/Missouri Sports Pod. Patreon.com/Missouri Sports Pod.
Thank you, boys. We appreciate you.
So, Kyle, Coach Drinkwitz took the stage today at SEC Media Days, and I thought he was pretty impressive. A lot of energy, but he still seemed relaxed, confident, dropped some jokes on everybody.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, he truly was like an entertainer. It's kind of the word that comes to mind to describe his performance, is what you could almost call it. Was him up on the main stage, and just, yeah, his first few things he said were jokes about Paul Feinbaum and everybody else you can make jokes about in the SEC. So, I love his energy. He's confident without taking himself too seriously, and I just think that's such a beautiful combination,
yeah.
A very appealing thing. And he even took a few stabs at some other teams and stuff, and a little playful jabs, but still, that's the kind of thing that makes football season fun. Is that makes the fans get engaged, is when they have a reason to root for Missouri or against Missouri and that kind of thing. And he's putting us in the conversation with everybody else in the SEC. He's making he's making himself known. He's making Missouri known at SEC Media Days. And honestly, I'm not really surprised. I kind of thought that he would bring that attitude and that energy. So I wasn't too surprised, but you just never know what he's going to say sometimes, though, and it's fun.
Yeah, I specifically liked, there's a few things I liked, but when he moved kind of past some of the jokes and was talking about the team last year, this part stood out to me. And this is from Tennessean.com. They have like a full transcript of everything he said. And he said, quote, "Last year we were able to win 5 conference games. We were able to beat the defending national champions. We were able to beat Kentucky for the first time in 5 years. able to win both of our trophy games and avenge a loss versus Vanderbilt. We had 5 players drafted, so there's a lot of positive momentum going into the offseason.
Yeah, and there's been definitely some Arkansas Twitter beef today after some of his comments that we'll discuss here in a minute. But, I saw a lot of he's making all these claims and, they haven't done anything yet. And I disagree with that.
Oh, yeah.
I think that Coach Drinkwitz came in last year, blew away expectations for what the team was going to do on the field. He's obviously put Missouri recruiting at a level it's never been before. I would definitely say that he's not, bebopping into media days today if he didn't have any results to show off.
Right.
And I think he has kind of earned the right to be a little confident and kind of talk about some of the achievements that they had last year. And hopefully it's some foresight into what could happen into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I, in particular, liked his slight dig at Dan Mullen. That was like a highlight for me. And it seems like Drinkwitz picked kind of the perfect targets for a little bit of jokes.
Yeah.
Because okay, who outside of who's going to really get mad at you for making, poking fun at Paul Feinbaum and Dan Mullen of all people.
Yep.
For the most part, you're going to have 90% of people backing you. And in particular with Feinbaum, he's going to laugh it off himself.
Right.
Because he's a good sport about stuff like that. Dan Mullen, maybe not so much.
Yeah, well, I think Coach Drinkwitz learned his lesson last year when he made a comment about Kirk Herbstreit publicly.
Right.
And there was a whole situation last year where Kirk was doubting that we would have a football season with COVID and just was probably a little bit too pessimistic publicly. And Coach Drinkwitz kind of called him out and kind of said something to the effect of stay in your lane and we'll see. And I don't think that was taken very well by maybe Kirk and some other national media people. So Coach Drinkwitz ended up apologizing, but he even alluded to that today at media days that I maybe learned a lesson to not poke at Kirk Herbstreit. So maybe he's learned some better targets to make jokes at.
Yeah, there's definitely certain people that if you poke fun their way, it's gonna be well, yeah, they deserve that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like a fine line to walk, but it seems like he's doing it okay.
Yeah, and some people may not take it as well as others.
Yeah, but we don't really care what Florida fans think.
No, we don't. Or Arkansas, for that matter.
That is true.
Obviously, a huge theme of media days this week, and something we'll talk about in a minute, is the rumor about Oklahoma and Texas potentially joining the SEC. So that's been something that's heavily asked about. And when Coach was asked about it, I guess the journalist basically said something to the effect of, are you looking forward to restoring some of those old rivalries? And will that become a more important rivalry than Arkansas? And I really like Coach Drinkwitz's answer to that. And honestly, I don't know what I would have said to that, but I really liked what he said. He basically just said, I really like our rivalry with Arkansas. And then he went on to basically said, I don't remember the last time they beat us. So he kind of took a little jab at him there, but I agree with him. I think that's been a fun rivalry. I think last year's game versus Arkansas was not only one of the more entertaining games I've ever watched maybe, but it just felt so good to beat them. And obviously just with OU Texas thing being a rumor right now, you don't want to overcommit yourself to any rivalry or poke the bear too much whenever that's not even necessarily a thing yet.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree with you there. Overall, I just think that he just did an excellent job of kind of representing Missouri and, he said all the right things as far as highlighting the positives that have happened since he's been the coach. And I think there are enough of them to talk about. And, he just hasn't really had any big misses yet. I mean, yeah, a couple games last year that with the momentum they had, we would have liked to see them pull out, but there were a couple wins that balanced those out. So it's not, as a whole on the season, not that big of a deal. But yeah, I mean, he just has the perfect amount of confidence and swagger without taking himself too seriously. And he multiple times with different media members spoke specifically about how he specifically said living the dream. He talked about being a high school coach and being in that area when SEC Media Days was going on, like 10 years ago, and just now he is one of those coaches that's participating, and he couldn't have ever dreamed it, and he's just kind of taking each day and making the most of it.
Yeah, he said he's living the fan experience.
Right.
That was like the exact words he used. I thought that was so funny. That so he's like, some people pay for the fan experience. I'm doing it right now, and it's just, he seems like he's genuinely just having a lot of fun, and like you said, not taking himself too seriously. So he was really entertaining. I was just locked into everything he was saying, and he said some fun football related things too. I mean, I really think they're going to be aggressive with Connor Bazelak this year. I think we have a lot of weapons, and he mentioned some key additions in the transfer portal that they made, and kind of shored up some weaknesses that they had through guys leaving in the draft or whatever it may be. He seems obviously confident about himself and how he can command the room, but also seemed pretty confident in what we might be able to achieve on the field this year. But he also said that we should probably try and be realistic about our expectations. We're trying to close the gap between some of the upper echelon teams in the SEC, and unfortunately, that's how you have to look at it sometimes from a Mizzou perspective. Is we have a little ways to go to reach some of those other teams, recruiting wise and wins on the field, but I think we are closing that gap.
And he also said we need our fan base to continue to re-engage with us and be excited about our program, and continue to re-engage and be excited. I think that's absolutely happening, and he put it perfectly. We got to keep building on that and fill up the seats every Saturday, and then more good stuff will keep happening. Like I feel like he's done his part up to this point, and going into that first home game, I think the fans really need to show their appreciation and show that if they can keep it going, we'll be there for him.
Yeah, I think Missouri deserves to have a coach that's different than anything we've had, and I don't know. I've never enjoyed watching a coach at SEC Media Days so much as I did this morning, and he really brings an attitude that the former coaches, Barry Odom, Gary Pinkel, both good guys and had success in different ways, especially Gary Pinkel here at Mizzou, but Coach Drinkwitz just brings a completely different angle, completely different energy, and you believe what he says. You can see why you can believe and see a vision that this guy has for Mizzou, and you can see how this program can go to somewhere else it's never been before, just because it just brings something that we've never seen.
Yeah. And he's got the X's and O's to back it up. That's the only reason he was in position to get the job in the first place.
Yep.
All right. Was there anything notable out of Case Cook or Akil Byers that you wanted to bring up? I had just one quote that Case Cook said, watch out for Tauski Dove this season. Said that he's really been impressing in the offseason during workouts and stuff. So love to hear that from a position group that struggled at times last year.
Yeah. I haven't really heard a lot about Tauski Dove maybe in the offseason, but love to hear that. I definitely think he's got the surest hands of any of those guys in the wide receiver room. He put that on display a few times last year. Really could be
a super reliable player. And if
right.
he's like taking another level, adding another level to his game, watch out.
For sure. I love the kind of different skill sets that some of our wide receivers have, and he's kind of that bigger, longer arms threat with good hands that can really go up and high point the ball. I think he could be an interesting weapon. Could have a big year.
Akil Byers was on like a fake magazine cover that SEC official Twitter account tweeted out.
He looked good.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. It looked like a ESPN the magazine cover basically, and he looked great, and that whole graphic was pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember last week whenever we heard who they were going to be bringing to media days, it was like you said, Case Cook and Akil Byers. I was a little bit surprised about those names. I mean, both seniors who have had solid careers at Mizzou and probably will have another solid season this year. But Coach Drinkwitz said today that he brought 2 linemen to show the importance of the trenches. We're going to emphasize the trenches. We can't win without a strong O-line, D-line.
And there's a message to recruits.
A message to recruits that we're going to prioritize you here. If you're in the trenches, you're important here.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. If you're winning in the trenches, we'll put you on TV, he said.
Yeah.
All right, Kyle. You ready to talk about these two schools that seem desperate to join the best conference in the nation?
I'm ready. I'm ready to just spit out some takes.
Okay. So rumor has it Texas and Oklahoma have reached out and are interested in joining the SEC. Wow. Look how the turntables.
I think upon initially hearing this news, I kind of was just maybe disregarding it a little bit. Like, okay, this has just got to be
off-season rumor. Somebody's bored.
Somebody's bored and leaked this during SEC media days to cause a stir. But Tom Hart had an interesting quote on Twitter that kind of made me like realize that we may need to pay attention a little bit more to this. And I'm trying to find that tweet. Basically said, I can't find the tweet, but basically said something to the effect of, you don't ask if you don't already know the answer.
Right.
And so I was like, oh man, this might actually be a thing.
Yeah.
And at first my initial reaction was like, I don't like this at all. If I'm being completely honest, Oklahoma is a perennial top 10 football program. They're good every single year. Texas is I hate Texas. They're a program that has every resource in the world. If they get a coach in there that knows what they're doing, I mean, that's just unfortunately kind of a sleeping giant. If you figure out if they get somebody competent in there that knows what they're doing,
then Texas will be back.
Texas
folks.
will be back. And so I guess I just think of, what do I want out of a football season? I want to see Mizzou win. I want to see Mizzou get to levels they've never been before, which is, make the college football playoff or win an SEC title. And I just think Oklahoma and Texas make that goal a little bit harder if you're playing those teams every single year. And that's just my honest thought is like, I hate both these programs, but I got to respect what they have done or what they could do on the football field. And it's a little bit scary.
Yeah. Believe it or not, Kyle, I'm right there with you. We're going to have to, I think we're going to have to put it out to the listeners. Somebody out there, please try to sell us on this in the YouTube comments or on Twitter or something. Why is this a good idea? I mean, I know it would bring in a ton more money to the program, more eyeballs every Saturday on SEC Network. There would be probably some kind of, combination of SEC Network and Longhorn Network. The SEC has always been good to all the schools that are members, though, and split revenues in a way that was like the whole reason that Missouri left the Big 12 was because Texas was greedy and wanted everything their way, and they thought that they were the most important school in the conference and that they needed to be able to make the rules, basically. And, if I don't love the idea of inviting that into the SEC because it's been going so well so far, in my opinion, since Missouri has joined, and I feel like fans of other SEC schools would agree that the SEC has been they were already very dominant, but that has only continued. Do you really need Texas? And really, my only hang up is with Texas. Oklahoma is very good, and they would add more competition to the SEC, but it maybe just intrigues me a little bit more how good they would be playing some of these schools every single year. And how it would make a difference to me also how the scheduling and the divisions and everything broke out. We'll talk about that in a sec. But yeah, my first instinct when I see that this may be more than just a rumor is why? And it's obviously just money. And
yeah, I mean, the SEC is already considered the greatest conference in the world, especially for football. And if that weren't the case, then Texas and Oklahoma wouldn't be banging down the door trying to get in. And I agree with you. There's something just really unappealing about Texas being in your conference. They're greedy. They have every resource available to them on mankind, and on mankind is what I said. In mankind, of mankind. I don't know.
All the resources.
They have all the resources. They want everything their way, and there's a reason that Missouri left the Big 12. when they did.
Yeah.
And it's because
and Nebraska and Colorado.
right. It's because Texas was destroying the conference.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that I'm a little bit nervous about that. But I do think there are some pros. I think that some of those matchups will be really fun. I think playing in Oklahoma or in Texas maybe every year or almost every year, I think those games could be fun. I don't know how often we'd win those games, but if I do think that we have a coach that I believe in, and like we said earlier, maybe Missouri is going to be in a different place than they've ever been before in the next 3 to 5 years, and maybe we're beating those teams regularly. And if that's the case, then bring it on. I think that's really, really fun.
Yeah, and potentially that could help actually with recruiting because obviously Missouri wants to be recruiting Texas, and if you can, that was always a good thing for Missouri. That's like why Texas became a pipeline in the Pinkel era, was you could tell these recruits like, hey, don't worry, like we'll be in the state of Texas playing games. Your family will not have to travel to Columbia every weekend to see you play, and that works to just help some of these Texas kids feel more okay with leaving home and coming to Missouri. So that could help recruiting, help re-solidify Texas as a pipeline for Missouri. The SEC would just be completely dominant, and especially if Texas found a coach that was competent enough to get them on track, then that would be pretty insane as far as just like the talent level in the conference.
Not a Tom Herman believer, huh?
No. Is he still there?
I don't even know.
Steve Sarkisian's a coach now, right?
Yeah, you're right.
So that could be it. I mean, I feel like it doesn't take, a super coach to get Texas back, folks.
Yeah.
So, and I think Steve Sarkisian's a good coach. He was a guy that I hoped Missouri would reach out to when they were replacing Barry Odom, but he was holding out for a much bigger paycheck.
Tom Herman is an offensive analyst
Probably
for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, that sounds right. Like I knew he would do some kind of job in the NFL or sneak into the staff of like Nick Saban or somebody like that.
Yeah, that's
get into
happens.
The coach rehabilitation program.
Well, that's exactly what Steve Sarkisian did. He got fired from USC or whatever, and then ended up as a coordinator at Alabama or whatever. So you know the story.
A couple things circling back to the media days and Coach Drinkwitz. I don't know how it came up, but he commented on the Texas horns down and how that's a penalty in the Big 12. If you do that if a opposing player does that towards a Texas player, that's a penalty. If they do it towards the fans, it's not a penalty, I think is what I read. So Coach Drinkwitz said that he asked SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey if horns down would be a 15-yard penalty in the SEC, and Commissioner Sankey said no comment.
Interesting.
But that's just like another example of the annoyance that Texas, the annoying things, the self-importance that Texas has about themselves, that you can't do a negative gesture towards us that has to do with, our celebration. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Florida fans don't whine about the Gator Chomp.
The Gator Chomp is that's something that's clearly associated with Florida.
Yeah.
And whenever they get beat in a sport, people do the Gator Chomp.
Yeah. The Gator Chomp is cool. I'll admit it. Like if Florida is rolling and that whole stadium's doing Gator Chomp and whatever, music playing, like that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, but if you're going to have something like that, you got to be prepared for opponents and opposing fans to do it back at you when you're losing.
For sure. What do you think about calling the Hogs?
Oh, man.
No.
Calling the Hogs is maybe the worst thing that's ever happened anywhere ever.
Producer Cameron, you're unbiased. What do you think about the...
It's one of the most annoying things when you hear it.
Okay, so we're not wrong then in thinking that.
Yeah,
obviously. It's the worst thing in sports.
Oh, man. Imagine, could there be anything more annoying than, if Tom Herman was the coach of Arkansas?
I'm not sure the universe could handle that.
Yeah, go ahead, producer Cameron.
Well, I was going to say, so that'd put the SEC at 16 teams.
Yeah.
Super conference.
So what's it gonna look like basically? Do you think we're gonna? I've seen some different ideas out there, like with the 4-pod system, and or just keeping it like the two divisions.
Yeah. The SEC network of all people just ran with this and posted a graphic saying the TV show SEC This Morning, they have a proposal is what they labeled it. Potential football alignment if Oklahoma and Texas join the conference. It still just kind of blows my mind that they're putting this out there, but they suggested four-team pods. I'll run through them real quick. Pod A, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, South Carolina. Pod B, Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, Vanderbilt. Pod C, LSU, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Texas A&M. Pod D, Arkansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think that could be fun. Kind of rotating who you play every year. You'd play Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma every year, and then it would rotate who you played outside of those teams. I think that could be fun. I also don't really love like the Big 12 outcasts little division going on there either. I think there's other schools that you could do it better geographically than that. But
Well, I've also seen, kind of split it down the middle, East-West, but, keep Alabama and Auburn together. And make more sense geographically.
I'm fine to stay with Arkansas and play them every year. I'm totally fine with that.
But I don't know. I like playing. I like how things have been going. And now, maybe I'm afraid of change or whatever. But I like playing Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Vanderbilt. I like the SEC East kind of. I like rotating in a team from the West. So, and playing Arkansas. I like the schedule, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
I agree.
And this would work, absolutely. I mean, because every team would host every other team at least once every 4 seasons. That's crucial to me. I really want that rotation of going to these other schools and also hosting them in Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the NFL model of conference, and they got the 4 divisions. Well, and really it'd just be 3 years, because you'd play your own conference probably every year. And then you'd have every 3 years you'd play each of the others.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm putting this out to the listeners and the viewers. Help us out here. Is there something I'm not seeing? Am I just stuck in what I am seeing right now and liking it too much? But I don't want to. The Pod D, the Big 12 light, subbing out Texas A&M for Arkansas. I don't know.
Yeah.
Geographically, it makes sense, but
initially I thought Missouri would be very opposed to this. Obviously, A&M has been publicly opposed to this. They've really are the only school that have made any public comment. Jimbo Fisher yesterday at Media Days said something like, he was asked, like, what do you think about this, and like, did you hear that they're wanting to get in? And he said, I bet they would. And so
that's kind of what I was thinking too.
Exactly. So, and obviously A&M loves where they are right now. They're the only SEC team in Texas. Like, they want to keep it that way.
Right.
I initially thought Missouri would not want to see these 2 teams join the SEC, but I'm not so sure about that. And I think that there could be a situation where Missouri would be in favor of seeing these teams join the SEC. So that's kind of what the information that maybe we'll be able to gather over the next coming days or weeks is, like, where do the rest of the teams in the SEC stand with this potential move?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because that's just changes college football. What would happen to what is formerly the Big 12? I mean,
I don't know.
It's kind of like conference realignment from 8 years ago or whenever that was, all over again, 10 years ago. Because is the Pac-12 going to scoop up a couple teams? Is the Big 10 going to scoop up a couple teams? Or are those... And also you got to think about, I'm pretty sure Oklahoma and Oklahoma State are like joined at the hip. Like, how do you get past that? That's always been a stumbling block as far as I know previously.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they would do about that. And I have seen some people already just speculating that Oklahoma State would also join the SEC. I don't know what's going to happen with that.
If that's going to
happen,
put
everyone in one. Just make it all one.
Well, yeah, might as well bring in Clemson and Notre Dame.
That sounds awful.
Yeah. Oh man.
I did see a tweet that some of the Big 12 ADs and CEOs are going to meet today to discuss that. That Dennis Dodd on Twitter said that they're going to be meeting at 5 p.m. today, as in Thursday, to discuss that situation. So it's all happening pretty quickly here. Kind of crazy, just out of the blue, and within a few days it seems to really be gaining some traction as far as the validity of it.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't tell the listeners and the viewers that we've discussed all this before. Episode 99 of the Missouri Sports Podcast is called College Football Conference Realignment. We did a lot of research and really looked at how this could work. And so check out episode 99, College Football Conference Realignment, to see kind of where we are mentally with how college football could really work at its best in every single way with a certain conference realignment.
I will also add that everything you just said was a complete lie, and it's terrible content. But go check it out, and it's because you might get a laugh or two, but we did no research whatsoever, and we had a week to fill last summer.
Wow.
But we may actually have to do a real one where we actually think about what's going to happen with these conferences this summer before the season starts, because I don't know what to tell you about the Big 12. I have no idea. Is the conference defunct after this? Are those teams just going to have to abandon ship and find another conference to join? Are they going to try and add a couple of teams like Cincinnati or something? I don't even know.
Why would Cincinnati join Kansas State, Iowa State, Baylor, and TCU?
More money? I have no idea.
Would the Big 12 be able to offer that to Cincinnati at this
I'm
point?
the wrong person to ask.
Yeah, those are just the kind of things I'm thinking about with like what happens to the Big 12. It seems it seems like the member schools that are left would be better off joining.
If I had to guess, I think that's what would happen. I think the Big 12 would just go away. I think those other teams would have to find another conference to join, and they'd do a 4-conference system, a super conference of 4 of them.
It's what year were we? I mean, this is
that's what I was going to ask.
This is 2011 all over again.
What's the soonest though that this would?
I don't know.
I've heard effect.
I have no idea.
I've heard it could happen as early as next season, potentially 2022 season.
This coming season?
No, the next one, as in next year.
I gotcha. Okay.
But still, that seems super fast.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the first time conference realignment happened, it was like, oh, really? And then, yep, this is a thing, and it's done.
Yep.
Well, this is exciting times. College football could be headed in new directions. Mizzou needs to try to take advantage of it. I mean, we've mostly been talking about football, but there are other sports to think about. I think Texas and Oklahoma are both in good places on the basketball side of things as well. Texas just hired Chris Beard away from Texas Tech, incredibly, and he took Tech to the Final Four, to the national championship game. And Oklahoma has had success under Lon Kruger, and now they got the coach from
Porter Mosher from Loyola.
So they seem to be in a good place. So
yeah. Basketball, if that move happens in basketball, the future's already looking kind of a little cloudy. But man, those teams would add another layer of difficulty of getting to the tournament.
Is that all? We got any other big news this week?
I think that's pretty much it. We did have a topic suggestion on our Discord.
I think so shout out to Tristan on Discord. He's one of our Patreon supporters, and so he's on Discord and able to submit topic suggestions. I think we will probably just be able to save that for a feature segment on a future episode, because we can dive into that a little bit more. So maybe we'll save that, tease it a little bit here.
All right.
But you could do just like Tristan and suggest topics for the show, and we will definitely record them and send them out to everyone. So and you can only do that on patreon.com/Missouri Sports Pod. Is that all for this week then?
I think that's it. I mean, it's talking season. Got a little a little rivalry, just all those thoughts pumping through the brain.
Coach Drinkwitz on a roll, as usual.
Making people mad.
Not me, though. He doesn't make me mad.
I love the thought of him kind of being a little bit of a villain, especially if we're winning games and he's still doing his dog and pony show.
Yeah, but he has this. I don't think he could really be the villain. Like, he's not a villain, but he could kind of play the villain.
Right. He's not Dan Mullen.
Dan Mullen is the villain.
I agree.
And so he's not just playing it. I think Jimbo Fisher has a little bit of villain in him, and he just like kind of hides it.
Okay.
And it could come out at any time. Nick Saban, he can be villainous. I don't know. I maybe disagree with you a little bit there. I don't want Coach's Drink to turn full heel and be the villain.
I don't really want him to either, but I could see a scenario where he is thought of that way a little bit. If we're in a couple of years, if Missouri's winning more games and he's still taking jabs at people, I could see it. Yeah. I don't want it to stop.
Okay. All right.
I love it.
All right. Let the jabs live on.
All right, everybody. I think that's all we got for you this week. You can find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. We are on Twitter at Mizzou Sports Pod, and you can email us at MissouriSportsPod@gmail.com.
You can find our t-shirts and stickers on our online shop, MissouriSportsPod.BigCartel.com.
Special thank you to our Patreon supporters at the $10 level and above, Brian Smith, Cooper, and Tristan. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We will see you next week.